The crystal chandelier at La Maison cast dancing shadows across our family's regular Sunday dinner table. My brother Marcus's booming laugh echoed through the upscale restaurant as he regaled everyone with stories about his latest business triumph. I sat quietly, pushing my untouched salmon around my plate, trying to ignore the familiar ache in my chest. And then, Marcus continued, straightening his designer tie, we closed the Peterson account. Just like that. 8 figures signed and delivered. He snapped his fingers for emphasis, making our mother beam with pride. That's my boy, Dad said, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. Following in my footsteps at Anderson Global. That's what real success looks like. I felt their eyes shift to me, heavy with disappointment and judgment. At 32, I was the family disappointment. The one who'd walked away from the prestigious family business 3 years ago to start my own company. Speaking of business, Mom said, her voice dripping with forced casualness, how's your little project going, Sarah? Before I could answer, Marcus chuckled. Still playing entrepreneur, sis? How's that working out for you? I gripped my fork tighter, remembering the countless nights I'd spent building Phoenix Consulting from the ground up. The company that none of them knew had quietly become one of the most powerful consulting firms in the country, operating through a complex network of subsidiaries and shell corporations. It's going fine, I said quietly, maintaining my carefully crafted image of struggling but stubborn independence. Let them think I was failing. Tomorrow would change everything. Fine. Marcus snorted. Is that why you're still driving that beat-up Honda? Come on, Sarah, it's time to grow up. There's always a position for you at Anderson Global. Entry-level, of course, but at least it's real work. I thought about my penthouse office downtown, the one with a view that made Marcus's corner office look like a storage closet. About the documents sitting on my desk, waiting for tomorrow's meeting. Documents that would change the power dynamic in this family forever. Marcus is right, dear, Mom chimed in. It's not too late to admit this whole independence thing was a mistake. We're worried about you. I remembered last Christmas, when they'd excluded me from the family photo because I didn't represent the Anderson success story. How they'd stopped inviting me to family functions unless Marcus specifically requested my presence, usually just to have someone to mock. Sarah, Dad leaned forward, his voice serious, you need to think about your future. Your brother's about to close the biggest deal in Anderson Global's history. The merger with Global Tech will make him the youngest VP in company history. Meanwhile He gestured vaguely at my simple black dress, so different from their designer outfits. Little did they know that my simple dress cost more than their entire wardrobes combined. I just chose to be subtle about my success, unlike Marcus, who flaunted every minor achievement like he'd invented electricity. Actually, Marcus said, signaling the waiter for more wine, speaking of the merger, we're having a signing ceremony tomorrow. You should come, Sarah. See what real business looks like. I took a slow sip of water, hiding my smile. The Global Tech merger? Interesting. You wouldn't understand the details, Marcus waved dismissively. It's complicated. High-level corporate strategy. I thought about the stack of papers on my desk, the ones revealing that Global Tech was actually one of my shell companies, created specifically to orchestrate this exact moment. Marcus had no idea he'd spent the last 6 months negotiating with the company I owned. I'm sure it is, I murmured. 10 figures, Marcus boasted, and that's just the initial phase. Once we acquire Global Tech's technology division, Anderson Global will dominate the market. Dad raised his glass. To my son, the business genius. I watched them toast, remembering all the times they'd dismissed my ideas, mocked my dreams, treated me like I was playing at business while Marcus was changing the world. Tomorrow they'd learn that while they were busy laughing at me, I'd built an empire that would swallow theirs whole. You know what? I said, surprising them by speaking up. I think I will come to the signing tomorrow. Marcus nearly choked on his wine. You will. Sure, I smiled. It sounds educational. Well, Mom said, clearly uncomfortable with my presence disrupting their perfect family narrative. I suppose there's no harm in Sarah seeing what she's missing. If they noticed how my smile didn't quite reach my eyes, they didn't mention it. They were too busy discussing Marcus's imminent triumph, planning the celebrations, arguing over which exclusive resort would host his promotion party. My phone buzzed quietly, a message from my CFO. Everything's in place for tomorrow. Global Tech's board has approved the final terms. They're eager to meet their real boss. I excused myself early, citing work responsibilities that earned more eye rolls and condescending smirks. As I walked to my car, yes, the modest Honda I kept specifically for family appearances, I heard Marcus call out, "Hey sis, don't be late tomorrow. You wouldn't want to miss seeing what real success looks like." I turned back, studying my brother's smug face one last time before everything changed. "Don't worry, Marcus. I wouldn't miss this for the world." Later that night in my real office, I reviewed the final merger documents. The terms were brutal, deliberately so. Once signed, Anderson Global would essentially be signing away control of their entire technology division to Global Tech, which would then fall under Phoenix Consulting's umbrella of companies. My assistant brought in another stack of papers. "The board is concerned about potential fallout," she said. "The Anderson family." "The Anderson family," I interrupted, "needs to learn that success doesn't always wear designer labels or announce itself at Sunday dinner." I signed the last document, then stood to look out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably practicing his victory speech, completely unaware that he was about to hand his company's future to the sister he'd spent years mocking. My phone buzzed again, a message from Marcus. "Wearing something nice tomorrow, sis? Don't want you embarrassing the family at my big moment." I didn't reply. Tomorrow would be response enough. The next morning, I arrived at Anderson Global's headquarters an hour early, wearing a custom Chanel suit that cost more than Marcus's car. The security guard did a double take. He was used to seeing me in my carefully cultivated, struggling entrepreneur outfit. "Miss Anderson?" He blinked. "The signing ceremony isn't until 9. I smiled, sliding my Phoenix Consulting ID across the desk. His eyes widened as he read my title. "I have some preparations to make," I said quietly. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, giving me time to reflect on the journey that had led to this moment. 3 years ago, I'd sat in my father's office as he explained why Marcus deserved the promotion I'd spent years working toward. "He has the Anderson instinct," Dad had said. "You're cautious. Too detail-oriented. Business requires bold moves." I'd resigned that same day, using my savings and a small inheritance from my grandmother to start Phoenix Consulting. The same grandmother who'd always told me that true power doesn't need to announce itself. The conference room was already prepared for the signing ceremony. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the city, though not quite as impressive as my own office view. Fresh flowers adorned the long mahogany table, roses, Marcus's choice, always one for dramatic gestures. My team arrived shortly after, setting up laptops and reviewing documents. They all knew their roles in what was about to unfold. At precisely 8:55, my assistant touched her earpiece. "They're on their way up." I took my position at the head of the table where Marcus had undoubtedly planned to sit. The doors opened and the room began to fill. Board members, executives, lawyers, all filing in with expressions of anticipation. Then came my family. Marcus strutted in first, his face falling when he saw someone in his seat. It took him a moment to recognize me, and when he did, his confusion was almost comical. "Sarah? Why are you sitting there? And what are you wearing?" Before I could respond, Mom and Dad entered, both stopping short at the sight of me. "Sarah." Dad's voice was sharp. "This is a private meeting. The family viewing section is over there." He pointed to some chairs along the wall. I smiled, remaining seated. "Actually, I'm exactly where I need to be." Marcus laughed, though it sounded forced. "Come on, sis. This is cute, but I need to prep for the signing. Global Tech CEO will be here any minute." "No," I said calmly, "she won't." The room fell silent. Marcus's face reddened. "What are you talking about? Of course she will. I've been working with her for months on this deal." "You've been working with her representative," I corrected, opening my laptop. "Speaking of which." The large screen behind me flickered to life, displaying Phoenix Consulting's logo. Beneath it, a complex organizational chart appeared, showing Global Tech as one of dozens of subsidiaries. "What is this?" Dad demanded, stepping forward. I stood slowly, enjoying the way the morning sun cast my shadow across the table. "This, Dad, is what real business looks like. Global Tech is a subsidiary of Phoenix Consulting. My company." has been since before you ever approached them about a merger. Marcus laughed again, but it was hollow. That's impossible. Your company is nothing. You're barely surviving. Am I? I pressed a button, and the screen changed to show Phoenix Consulting's full portfolio. Companies across multiple industries, billions in assets, a global network of operations. That little project you've been mocking? It's worth more than Anderson Global 10 times over. Dad grabbed the portfolio summary from the table, his hands shaking as he read. Mom sank into a chair, her face pale. This can't be real, Marcus whispered. Oh, it's very real, I assured him. Every time you bragged about negotiating this merger, you were actually negotiating with my team. Every concession you celebrated as a win was carefully designed by my strategists. You've spent 6 months being outmaneuvered by the sister you thought was a failure. The board members were whispering now, some furiously typing on their phones as they verified my claims. Dad's face had gone from red to white as he reached the section detailing Phoenix's market position. Why? He finally asked. Why all the deception? Because you taught me that the Anderson name means everything, I replied. So I built something without it. Something bigger than you ever imagined possible. And I did it while you were all too busy laughing at my little project to notice. Marcus lunged for the merger documents, scanning them frantically. We can't sign this. These terms, they'd give Global Tech controlling interest in our tech division. Actually, one of the board members spoke up. We've already approved the terms. The vote was unanimous last week. Based on Marcus's recommendation, I added sweetly. He was very persuasive about the benefits of this merger. Mom finally found her voice. Sarah, you can't do this to your family. Family. I laughed softly. Was I family when you excluded me from photos? When you stopped inviting me to events? When you spent years treating me like a cautionary tale? I turned to the board members. Shall we proceed with the signing? The next hour was excruciating for my family. They watched as I signed document after document, officially transferring control of Anderson Global's most profitable division to my company. Marcus slumped in his chair, his career-making deal transformed into his greatest humiliation. As the last document was notarized, I stood to address the room. For those concerned about the transition, don't be. Phoenix Consulting has a stellar record of maintaining and growing acquired assets. Your jobs are secure. I paused, looking at Marcus. Most of them, anyway. You've destroyed this family, Dad said quietly. No, I corrected him. I built something despite this family. There's a difference. As the room cleared out, Marcus remained seated, staring at nothing. Mom was quietly crying, and Dad looked years older than he had at dinner last night. You know what the funny thing is? I said, packing up my laptop. If any of you had ever bothered to really look at what I was building, had shown even a fraction of the interest you showed in Marcus's career, you might have seen this coming. Was it worth it? Marcus asked bitterly. Destroying everything our parents built? I thought about the years of dismissal, of being treated like an embarrassment, of watching Marcus take credit for other people's work while I built something real. Ask me again in a year, I replied. When Phoenix has turned Anderson Global's tech division into something actually innovative, instead of just another boys' club running on nepotism and ego. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Marcus? The position of mailroom supervisor is still open in our Singapore office. Consider it a chance to learn what real business looks like. The ride down to the lobby was quiet. My assistant waited with my real car. Not the Honda, but the Aston Martin I usually kept hidden from my family. The press release is ready, she said. And your grandmother's called twice. I smiled, thinking of the only family member who'd ever believed in me. Tell her I'll be over for tea later. With some interesting news. As we pulled away from Anderson Global's building, I caught a glimpse of Marcus watching from the conference room window. His perfect world had just crumbled, replaced by the reality that his struggling sister had outmaneuvered him at every turn. That evening I sat in my real office, watching the sun set over the city. My phone had been buzzing non-stop, messages from family members ranging from angry to pleading, all suddenly very interested in my little project. I ignored them all except for one, a text from my grandmother. Well played, my dear. Your grandfather would have been proud. I smiled, remembering his favorite saying, Success doesn't need to shout. True power whispers. Opening my laptop, I began reviewing Phoenix's next acquisition target. Another company that had underestimated the quiet girl who didn't brag about her achievements. Another lesson waiting to be taught. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served in a conference room with a fountain pen and a stack of merger documents, signed by the person they never thought would succeed. My assistant knocked softly. Your dinner reservation is in an hour. And Marcus has been in the lobby for 20 minutes asking to see you. I thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Tell him the same thing he's told me at every family dinner for the past 3 years. She nodded, understanding. Sorry, we don't have time for small projects? Exactly. I turned back to my work, already focusing on the next conquest. Let him wait in the lobby. Let him feel what it's like to be dismissed, ignored, underestimated. After all, I'd waited years for this moment. He could wait a little longer to learn that sometimes the biggest success stories are written by those who were told they'd never succeed. The city lights twinkled below, and somewhere out there, a family was learning that they'd spent years mocking the very success they'd always claimed to value. And I, the daughter they'd dismissed, the sister they'd underestimated, was finally exactly where I belonged, at the top, looking down on their small world and planning my next move. Success, after all, is the best revenge. Especially when served with a side of poetic justice.